Touchstone Exploration is a Canadian-based international upstream oil and gas company currently active in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Now, this week the company announced it's launched placings in both Canada and the UK. Joining me today to discuss the news is Touchstone Exploration Chief Executive Officer Paul Baay. Paul, good morning to you.
Good morning as well.
Paul, I've mentioned these funds. How will they be used from the placing in the UK and Canada?
Yeah, so we raised $13 million and all of those funds have been earmarked to drilling. So there'll be a combination of development drilling at Cascadura and then a follow-up well to our original well at Royston, which was our light oil discovery that we had last year. So we've got enough funds to finish the projects to bring the wells on stream that we have already drilled. So these funds were just supplemental to get us to be able to get back in the field and start drilling. So it's a pretty simple raise for what we're looking at.
Sure. Okay. What can you tell us about the rate of production at Coho?
Yeah, so Coho came on October the 10th, and there were some up and downs at the plant we go through that's operated by Shell. We've been able to kind of keep that well up and down depending on whether or not Shell's been running at full capacity or not. The well seems to be leveling out about 9.5 million cubic feet a day, which is just a little bit below what we originally targeted. But part of that reason is we were backing out some of the gas that Shell was putting through their own facility, so they backed us down a little bit. And it's been rock solid, as far as the production base goes, and so. I think we're pretty happy with Coho. As a matter of fact, we've agreed internally now that we should probably look at drilling a development well there in the next coming year or so we can take full capacity of that plant up to 24 million.
Sure, sounds good. Can the current Shell pipeline handle any more than the current output, or is it at capacity now?
No, the Coho pipeline, it can handle at least the 25 million a day that we've got at the facility. So, we're putting through roughly, call it 9.5 million a day. So we could double. And that's really the reason for looking at the development well, is it would give us a second well that we could take that up to capacity. So yeah, that's the plan. So the Coho, it's not really, it wasn't really a big step change for us when you compare it to Cascadura or some of the other things we're looking at. It was more really a proof of concept, and I think now what we're seeing is that that proof of concept is actually for sure working.
Sure. Okay. What are the plans for the rig deployment, and what will be drilled?
Sorry, what was that question again?
What are the plans for the rig deployment, and what's going to be drilled there?
Yeah, so it's, thanks to having this funds now, the rig will move over to the Royston well initially. That'll be the first well that we go and look at drilling. And it probably be moved in early January. We actually put the mast up a couple of days to make sure everything's good. So we'll line up the crew here in the remainder of the month of December, and probably right after Christmas they'll look to move into Royston. And at Royston, what we'll do is, because this rig is bigger than the rig we had last time when we drilled Royston, we'll drill it about 600 feet deeper, take full advantage of everything we learned the first time. Then when we're done at Royston, the rig will go over to Cascadura, start drilling development wells at our Cascadura C pad, which is the pad to the northeast, and that'll basically be development drilling into the Cascadura facility. And then while that's drilling, we can test Royston. When we're done at Cascadura, the rig will come back over to Royston and start doing development drilling at Royston. So, it's basically these funds and the program kick off a continual drilling program on the Ottawa block, which I think will happen for the next probably 2 or 3 years.
Brilliant. And just looking into 2023, what are the goals for Touchstone?
So the goals are really twofold. Number one is to get the production on at Cascadura, which should bring our production to somewhere around 17,000 BOEs a day in 2023. If we really get to these Cascadura development wells as quickly as we can, we could see that number get pretty close to 20,000 BOEs a day by the end of the year if we're successful on that. And that's one of the reasons for raising the money, is it accelerates that program and gets us there quite a bit sooner. And then the second part of that will be drill the exploratory wells and expand our acreage. We think there's some really great opportunities to further expand our acreage position in Trinidad, both through the land sale and some other deals that we might be able to do.
Sure. I was just going to say, could you expand on the exploration plans for 2023?
Yeah, and although, I think that the Royston well, although a lot of people may look at it as an exploration well, we did discover oil in that first well that we drilled there. it tested 3 zones, 34 plus API on all of them. Independent evaluators gave that particular, with that well, about 3.5 million barrels of recoverable oil, up to about 165 million barrels of oil in place. So, I think the market's looking at Royston as being an exploratory well. I think really what we're looking at as being as a proof of concept well. We think we've already discovered the oil. So, from an exploration point of view, I guess that's the first piece. And then the other part would be underneath Royston sits this very large structure that we call the Cretaceous. We call it Kraken. And one of the other advantages of these funds is it's going to allow us to get back over to Royston. It might be as early as the end of 2023 to drill that very, very large anomaly that we see sitting below the current Royston structure in the Cretaceous. And quite frankly, if that works, it makes everything else that we've done look small compared to what we're looking at there. So there's kind of this balance now in the drilling program of combination of the exploration side plus the development drilling side, which we really haven't had before. So it talks about how the company's transitioned.
Sounds exciting. Are there any opportunities to expand your existing exploration acreage?
Yeah, and I touched on that a little bit. The onshore bid round that is coming up in January the 9th, the last one was 10 years ago. So these don't come up, every month. So you really have to be positioned. And there are some very interesting blocks. Obviously, I won't give all the details because it is a competitive process, but I think there is a number of things within that fairway that we would be interested in picking up. But I really want to emphasize that, even on our existing lands, we've got 20 additional exploration opportunities. So we will look at some of that acreage, but our real focus is going to be on the development and the exploration on our existing acreage.
Of course. Sounds good. Okay. Talking to me today was Paul Baay, Chief Executive Officer at Touchstone Exploration. Paul, thanks for joining Directors Talk.
Thanks. I appreciate the time.